Word.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Goby, joined by my colleagues Jerry Marrero and Desiree Robertson. And today we're presenting our TLA 714 field project, Mentoring Practices in Educational and Developmental Contexts, a cross-site qualitative study. We'll each take different parts of the story, and you'll see speaker labels on the slides so you'll know whose voice you're hearing. Here is our roadmap for our presentation. I will start with the introduction and research question. Jerry will explain our theoretical and paradigm dynamic framework, and Desiree will walk through our methods and analysis process. Then we will each introduce our sites and positionality, moving together through three cross-site themes, and Desiree will close with conclusions, limitations, and implications for future work. Our guiding research question is, how do mentors use strategies to support the academic and personal development of the individuals they serve? Mentoring is increasingly recognized across K through 12 and higher education as a meaningful approach to promoting academic achievement, socio-emotional growth, and positive youth outcomes. Research shows that program effects strongest when evidence-based practices are in place and when high quality relationships are established between mentors and mentees. Despite a growing body of literature, relatively little qualitative work has examined how mentoring strategies are enhanced simultaneously across middle school, high school, and higher education context. That's the gap this study addresses. We want to see how mentoring looks on the ground across three very different educational settings use a, using a qualitative field-based approach. Jerry is now going to take it away with theoretical framework.
Thanks, Kristen. We grounded this study in an interpretivist and constructivist paradigm, which holds that reality is socially constructed through lived experiences, interactions, and personal meanings. Because mentoring is inherently relational and context specific, this paradigm guides how we understand mentors' accounts and our observations in natural settings. We also use self-determination theory as supplementary lens. Self-determination theory identifies three core psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. In a mentoring context, mentors support self-direction and decision-making, autonomy, build skills and confidence, competence, and the relationship itself meets the needs for belonging and connection, relatedness. Across all three sites, we saw mentors engaging these needs in different ways, which helped us interpret our cross-site themes. And now here's Desiree for the methods and analysis.
All right, thank you, Jerry. With our methods and analysis part, we used a qualitative multiple case field study design, which each of us were responsible for one site. At each site, we collected three types of data. One observation focused on communication patterns, relationship dynamics, and evidence of mentoring structures. One semi-structured interview, audio recorded and transcribed verbatim for at least the first 15 minutes, and site-specific artifacts that documented program structures and expectations. Our shared triangulating artifact across all three sites was the elements of effective practice for mentoring, or in our field, the EEPM, the fifth edition, a national standards framework we use to compare what we observed to recommended mentoring practices. Using multiple data sources plus a shared artifact helped us to triangulate our findings and support the credibility of our interpretations. For analysis, each of us independently read all of our own data and conducted first cycle descriptive and in vivo coding. We then reduced our initial codes into broader categories within each site and came together as a team to compare categories across sites, identify shared patterns, and then triangulate those patterns against the EEPM benchmarks. Finally, we named and organized our cross-site themes into a data matrix with supporting evidence, which you'll see in the next few slides. Together, this process helped us move from rich site-specific details to cross-site themes that are grounded in the data and supported by a common framework. Now, let's look at all the data. Christy.
So these are all of our sites and participants. For my site, it is the Barry and Mary Gossett Center for Academic and Personal Excellence at the University of Maryland. My participant, Sydney, is an assistant director who works with Division One student athletes on academic support and career development.
My site is the Women Tomorrow program at a public high school in Homestead, Florida. My participant, Nina, is the school site coordinator for a program serving girls ages 14 to 18 who face academic and social challenges.
And my site is Academy Prep of St. Petersburg, a school-based mentoring program serving students in grades 5 through 8. My participant, Maya, is the community relations coordinator, and my relation to the site is more complex than a typical field researcher, which I'll explain later. I'll start because my position is the most complex. I bring over 20 years of experience in mentoring systems and practitioner training, and I'm the founder of GLC Collective, whose first licensing partner is actually Academy Prep. I also delivered the only formal mentor training that Maya's cohort has received, which makes me a deep insider that required active reflexivity throughout data collection and analysis.
For me, I'm a high school teacher and colleague of Nina at the same school. At the same time, I'm a male observer in a program designed for women and girls, which required careful attention to how my presence might have shaped participants' openness and what they chose to share.
My participant is a I'm a former Division Two student athlete, which created almost instant rapport with Sydney and the students at the Gossett Center. But also, it also meant I had to be vigilant about not projecting my own athletic experience onto theirs and instead listening closely to how they describe their mentoring relationships. So next we have the data metrics, and these metrics show some of the key codes and data that built our first cross-site theme. We'll each highlight one row from our site. At UMD, Sydney described building personal knowledge of every student before any academic advising could happen. That's the student comfort and belonging row, and my observation confirmed it.
At Women Tomorrow, Nina framed rapport as a prerequisite. Without it, students became defensive. That's a relationship building role.
And at Academy Prep, the program structure sustained one-on-one relationships from fifth grade through post-secondary. So trust isn't just described, it's institutionalized.
Next, is the theme one, mentoring begins with relationship. So Sydney put it directly. I can't advise students well unless I know them personally. End quote. In my observation, students moved fluidly between personal conversation and academic business, which really illustrated that relationship is the foundation for any academic advising.
At my site, Nina said, you have to already have a rapport with them because if you don't, they're just going to get defensive. I saw that choice in action when a student stayed after the session to bring a sensitive personal matter to Nina, suggesting that the mentoring relationship opened space for more vulnerable conversations.
So this emphasis on relationship is also reflected in the EEPM's benchmarking of trust building as foundational across different types of mentoring programs. At Academy Prep, that philosophy is built structurally into the mentoring year. Mentors are expected to sustain one-on-one relationships over multiple years, which supports deeper relational work.
Moving on to theme two, mentors adapt strategies to meet individuals where they are. Sydney's row capture ability and individualized support. For example, she completely restructured her advising approach for an international student unfamiliar with US academic norms.
From my side, Nina's role focuses on role navigation. She anchors her adaptability and core values to manage being both a teacher and a mentor to the same students.
And at Academy Prep, program tools like goal tracking sheets and monthly activities scaffold individualized mentor responses so mentors can adapt without reinventing their practice for each student.
Sydney said, I always joke that I'm a chameleon because I'm constantly adapting to what students need. In one observation, she physically drew concepts on a whiteboard when a student needed a different entry point, which showed deliberate, individualized flexibility in real time.
Nina navigated her dual teacher mentor role by staying anchored in who she is, kind, thoughtful, and very mindful. That internal consistency became her compass for switching between roles while still centering students' needs.
And at Academy Prep, the mentor handbook tools support adaptability without requiring each mentor to start from scratch. This reflects a productive tension between program fidelity and individual responsiveness in school-based mentoring.
Moving on to theme 3, mentoring addresses the whole person, not just academic goals. The confidence building row is mine. Sydney described willingly carrying a large emotional load because she believes it's what helps students succeed.
My roles highlight social emotional support and student empowerment. Nina stayed present with her students' personal conflict after the session ended and made a counselor referral on the spot.
And the holistic program mission road comes from Academy Prep. Academic excellence, personal integrity, and community service are explicitly named goals, not just implied ones.
Sydney said being an individualized counselor requires a large emotional and mental load, but I'm willing to do that because I truly believe it helps students succeed. She described a student who initially disliked school and eventually graduated with a double degree, framing her role as supporting them, celebrating their wins, and helping them recover from setbacks.
At the Women of Tomorrow program, when a student stayed after the session to discuss a personal conflict, Nina listened, offered guidance, and referred to her to the school counselor. That moment is a concrete example of the program's mission to inspire, empower, and transform the lives of at-risk girls.
And at Academy Prep, the program's mission documents explicitly center not only on academic success, but also personal integrity and lifelong community service. This aligns with the EEPM's emphasis on youth well-being, not only academic outcomes as a core measure of mentoring program success. So, across 3 very different contexts, a middle school in St. Petersburg, a program for at-risk high school girls in Homestead, and a Division I advising office in Maryland, 3 themes emerge consistently. Mentoring begins with relationship. Mentors adapt strategies to meet individuals where they are, and mentoring addresses the whole person, not just academic goals. These patterns align with the EEPM benchmarks and with broader mentoring literature on the centrality of relationship quality for program effectiveness. Methodologically, this design lets us triangulate across observations, interviews, and artifacts at each site and against a shared national framework. Be transparent about our positionality and check our coding across researchers before naming cross-site themes. Our limitations are real. We conducted only one observation and one interview per site. Kristen's observations was via FaceTime. Jerry's verbatim transcript covered only the first 15 minutes, and my insider role introduces confirmation bias that reflexivity alone cannot fully resolve. Future work could increase observations per site, add mentee interviews to center mentees' voices, and consider longitudinal or mixed method designs using validated relationship quality measures. The broader question we'd like to pursue is how program structures enable or constrain relational mentoring across different institutional contexts. And with that, we say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and attention.